Hello and welcome to anyone who's watching this video. I'm a bench joiner and I've been using wood planes for the last 47 years. I picked this plane up second hand from eBay for £65. It hadn't been sharpened and it had only been used once, and when I come to get it out of the box and try to adjust it, I realised there was something wrong with it. The blade was very unstable and almost impossible to adjust and keep in one place. I like to set a plane by presenting the blade by looking down the plane till it's visible. And then adjusting it from side to side until it looks about true. And then I draw it back below the bed. And then bring it back forward so it's just visible. And then take a cut with it. What I was finding with this was, when I brought it forward and adjusted it widthways, drew it back and it came forward again, it would be out of square to the bed. And when I squared it back up again, it would be taking too big a cut. And there was no way around that. So for me personally, it appeared to be unusable, and I could quite understand why someone was selling it. So when I come to look at it, take it apart, the problem was very simple. The edges of the casting here all had burrs on them, and those burrs were catching and causing the erratic behaviour of the blade. Once I'd deburred it and cleaned it all off, I found it was absolutely perfect. It can be adjusted and it stays where you adjust it. You can wind the blade back and wind it in and it'll still stay square. And it's relatively stable, so even if you catch the knob, it doesn't move the blade. So if you've got one that you're having trouble with, it might be as simple as that. This one I've also done a few other modifications for my own personal preference. I've filed all the edges of the casting and smoothed them off and around the frog because they were very sharp and not finished. But for a plane that cost as much as this did, or even new, they're only just over £100, you can't expect them to be really finished. I think it feels a lot better and it looks a lot better. The other thing I've altered is the rear handle. To me, it was too fat and too upright. There was a very large gap here between that and there, presumably so you could put your 4 fingers around it. But when I'm using a smoothing plane, I like to put my index finger out, which locks your wrist and gives you more control. With the handle in its original position, your finger had got nowhere to rest. It was resting on this which is also changing the adjustment. So what I decided to do was reprofile the handle to give it a more forward bias. So I took some out of here and some out of here to give it a more forward lean, using a traditional plane handle as a sort of a guide. And I drew permanent marker where I wanted to remove. I have access to a bandsaw at work, so I could cut that out. And then I used a router cutter, the router upside down in a vise, to take some of the meat off the round. And it made it a lot better, but it's still very, when you picked it up, it was still very forward heavy. And there was still a large space between here and there. So I took the decision to move the handle forward about 12 millimeters. So for that, I drilled the base, which I did by hand, drilled and countersink the screw from there to there. It's about a 12 millimeter movement. And I used car body filler and touched up with paint where the old hole used to be and shaped the back in there. I did think about cutting the back off that, but I decided I'd leave it as it was because it was stronger. But moving the handle forward, as you can see you can see it on the bed there possibly, has made a huge difference to the balance of the plane. And it now feels a lot different. It doesn't feel as front heavy. I've got somewhere to put my index finger and I feel like I've got more control over it. It's give it a more traditional feel. And it is now one of my favourite planes. I have quite a lot of hand planes, and this is the one I pick up the most. It's a lovely plane to use now. Very smooth, cuts very smooth and cleanly. There's no juddering or chattering with it, and it's a very nice plane to use. There was also a number 4 printed on this lug here, which holds the handle on, which I didn't like because it wasn't square. So I removed that, which I think makes it look a lot cleaner. And so that both the handle and the knob would be the same colour, I stripped the finish off the handle and refinished it with gunstock oil, which is what I like to put my plane handles. This one in particular, I like about 4 coats of that. It builds well, and it makes a nice comfortable finish for a plane handle. If you wanted to reshape the handle and you hadn't got a bandsaw to hand, you could use a coping saw. But what I found very good is these. They sell them in Screwfix UK for about £10, and the amount of stock you can remove with one of those in a small batch of drill is quite surprising. So you could actually sand the handle to shape if you wanted to. That's it. Thank you for watching. I hope this video is of use or interest to somebody. Thank you for watching and take care.